justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. Let's get right to my open. Is the Biden administration recklessly endangering American citizens by allowing infected illegals from some of the poorest countries in the world, where medical care is rare and vaccinations even more rare, to not only enter our country, but to then hand them over to non-government organizations like the Catholic Charities?
What's happening is when Border Patrol drops folks off at a charity, the charity gets overloaded, and then they drop them off at a hotel without even telling the local officials, and that's not right. The charity needs to tell the local officials, especially if there are COVID positive. And what I'm asking on the Biden administration is to do a pause. Do a pause.
When Texas Governor Greg Abbott had enough of Biden's releasing COVID-infected illegals into Texas border towns, he issued an executive order that barred the ground transportation of migrants who could be carrying COVID-19. Biden AG Merrick Garland threatened the governor to immediately rescind his executive order because it was, quote, both dangerous and unlawful. He said that the governor of Texas was, quote, jeopardizing the health and safety of non-citizens in federal custody. Notice his concern is for non-citizens, not American citizens. Yet the federal government wants us, American citizens, to mask up, even if we've been vaccinated, even when we're inside. Nancy Pelosi tells Congress and staff to mask up in the people's house or face arrest and fine. The truth? The Biden administration failed at their effort to get us vaccinated by July 4th, and now we have to pay the price. But it's not just their failed message that is creating so much mixed confusion. It's their hatred of Donald Trump from the beginning that caused people to hesitate to get the vaccine.
Let's just say there's a vaccine that is approved and even distributed before the election. Would you get it?
Well, I think that's going to be an issue for all of us. I will say that I would not trust Donald Trump. If Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
I trust vaccines. I trust scientists, but I don't trust Donald Trump. And at this moment, the American people can't either.
And now you want to mask us because you clearly failed in your effort to get us vaccinated because the totalitarian impulse within you is so strong? Nothing makes sense. A news report says that 50,000 illegals were released without a court date, when less than 10% bothered to show up at ICE facilities. Is that your argument? Is that the reason we should mask up so that we can protect those who are not vaccinated in the event of a breakthrough? This new attempt to mask us at a time when hospitalizations and deaths are almost at an all-time low is laughable. Isn't the goal to keep people from dying of COVID? This new Delta variant is not nearly as lethal, although it is contagious. And this is your excuse for mandating that vaccinated people wear a mask indoors? Yet you don't even monitor people coming in through the southern border. When every time I flew through an airport in New York, I had to put my life's medical history on a form and give it to someone from the National Guard. Look, I was a believer when that genius Fauci said, give us 2 weeks to flatten the curve. The way I figure it, that was 64 weeks ago. This is all by design. And now Randy Weingarten from the AFT says they want to try to make sure we get our kids in school. What's with the try? Right now, New York has a 3% infection rate. Are you going to start shutting down schools again? You expect parents to send their kids off for 6 hours breathing who knows what from a mask most often made in China? You don't think our children suffer from that alone when they are the least vulnerable? Some people are skeptical because this is an emergency use vaccination. Why not push to accelerate approval for the vaccine? It is sad that you think that we are so stupid that we don't know what you're doing. You are teeing us up for another lockdown no matter what you say, so that when we go into the 2022 election, you can divide this country more than it's divided already by pitting us against each other, pitting us against illegals, pitting us against the government. If we are vaccinated, we still have to wear a mask inside. That's plain stupid. And you say that you're following the science? No, you're not. You're relying on a study from a foreign country that was rejected in a peer review where the vaccine was not available. You've lost us. Even the most loyal people can't stay with you because nothing you say makes sense. Because you defy logic. If you vax, no mask. Now, if we vax, we have to wear a mask and maybe double it inside. What's the point of a vaccine if you have to mask up indoors and inhale whatever's in those masks? And you called us every name in the book. You said that we were the science deniers. We were the granny killers. But in truth, you are the science deniers. You are the granny killers. Democrat governors like Cuomo and Gretchen Whitmer, you intentionally sent COVID-infected patients into nursing homes and lied about it where our most vulnerable seniors were. And now even your mega donors are coming after you. It's well-deserved. And the labor unions, you just can't mandate that labor unions tell their employees that they must mask up. That's an issue for collective bargaining, unless, of course, they're in it with you. But the biggest question of all, what is the end game? If everyone in America is ultimately vaccinated, but the rest of the world is not, do we still have to mask up? And Mr. Biden, by letting in illegals nonstop, 1 million from January to today, and that's an understatement, you are guaranteeing that we will never be free of your totalitarian impulse to control us. And that's my open. Let me know what you think on my Facebook and Twitter, hashtag Judge Jeanine. And here with a reaction to my open and to give us the latest information we need to know about the Delta COVID strain, author of COVID, The Politics of Fear and the Power of Science, Fox News analyst Dr. Mark Siegel joins me now. All right, Dr. Siegel, let's get one thing straight. We've got this Delta variant because it came from India, a country where they weren't vaccinating people. Is that correct?
I'm almost speechless because your opening ended at the most important thing that's going on in the world right now, which we are almost not talking about here in the United States, which is less than 10% of the people in India are vaccinated. We're calling it the Delta variant, which makes everyone forget where it came from, but it came from India because there were thousands and thousands and thousands of cases and no vaccine. Guess what happened? The virus transformed itself. It mutated. It spit out a variant. In Africa, by the way, there's less than 1% of the people vaccinated. So even if this whole country were vaccinated, which I think is an extremely good idea, by the way, even if it were, your point is correct. Your point is so correct. It's a worldwide problem, and in other parts of the world where millions and millions, even billions of people live, there's so little vaccine that the variants are almost inevitable, and one may come along that evades the vaccine.
Well, it's a worldwide problem for us that's exacerbated by the fact that the Biden administration is opening the borders, throwing down the welcome mat, giving illegals with COVID to the non-NGOs like the Catholic Charities who take them to hotels. They go to restaurants. There's no monitoring, no supervision. They're sending them into the interior of the United States. But let's just keep going through. Let's assume that. Okay, so let's assume that their messaging has been a failure. They want to get all of us vaccinated. Why are people assuming that, maybe it's the Trump people who aren't vaccinated? Is it the minority community that is mostly non-vaccinated?
Well, so that's a point of what they call misinformation. You're absolutely right. The minority community is not fully vaccinated because of hundreds of years of distrust that you can't go away overnight. There's also the fact that independents are not vaccinated. It's not simply, but you said in the open something that I want to emphasize here. Imagine what it would have felt like if President Biden, and he had another opportunity yesterday, didn't he, to praise President Trump, to reverse himself about this distrust about the vaccine that he showed before he got into office. What if he said 9 months isn't a speed vaccine that I don't trust because it came from President Trump? How about saying that the team President Trump put together involved research that went back since the 1980s and sped it in a way that was scientifically correct, scientifically accurate, used the best of the private sector plus the military? What a breath of fresh air. Maybe he gets some people to be vaccinated if he talked like that.
Well, and certainly your point is that to a certain extent, he and Kamala Harris are responsible for the distrust that people have by saying they wouldn't take it, and that's the vaccine that we're all taking. But let me move on from there. So if we're vaccinated, the Delta variant is nowhere near lethal, and let's put up some of the screens we've got in terms of hospitalizations, in terms of lethality, and in terms of the number of cases. I think we've got some full screens that show that there are very few, if any, of these cases that the